needed one card to make Freeze Mage better in control matchups. I mean, this card is gonna hurt you a bit in the aggro matchups probably, because you have another damage spell that you don't really want. But this card is gonna make you the control matchup so much better. Oh, I'm so happy with this card, man. I'm so happy. Like, yeah, there are two possibilities you can go. First possibility, you cut a damage card out of your deck to still have like a really consistent Freeze Mage deck, and then you cut on Fireball. But I don't think that you don't have to do that. So what you do, you cut on Fireball, you play 3 damage early, and you get a 3 mana Fireball back. Perfect, super good. And otherwise, let's say you cut like a card out of it. Like, there's always like the 1 or 2 spots that are kind of free in Freeze Mage, in my opinion. So you cut like a Loot Hoarder. And now you have extra reach. You have discards to trade early, and then you have like a Fireball back in the deck. But with this card, you want to cycle more. So you don't really want to cut card. It's hard to say. It's hard to say for me what you want to cut out of it. And the only way why this card might not be super powerful is because you cannot draw into your key cards early enough. Like, the key cards, you want to draw Emperor as early as you can. You want to draw Alex as early as you can. And then discard, like, then you get the Fireball earlier. So I don't think you want to cut card draw out of your Freeze Mage with this card. I think you want even more card draw with this card. So you might even cut like Healbot out of the deck or something. So it's either you cut like an card draw, you maybe cut an AoE kind of freeze slot. Now, you are not gonna cut Antonidas, right? I mean, I'm even thinking of that. Or cut Emperor, but nah, that cannot be right. I think you can cut Fireball, you can cut a card draw. Or you could like the more free spot, like cut a Healbot, cut a second Blizzard. So yeah, this card's gonna be good. I'm gonna play this card. This card is gonna be good. I'm not sure what you can what you wanna put out of your deck for this card, but this card is gonna make Freeze Mage really, really good. Accelerated Evil. Deal 3 damage to all minions. Shuffle this card into your opponent's deck. So compare it to Holy Nova. Holy Nova deal 2 damage to all minions. Heal 2 all of your minions. And now we deal 3 damage, so we get like a better AoE clear. And but it shuffle this card into your opponent's deck. So your opponent also has this card. And then you get it back. And then you play it and he gets it back. And then he plays it and you get it. Oh my god, what the fuck. So this is like an insanely... If you have this card against a Control Warrior, the old school Priest against Control Warrior, you are not even gonna fatigue. Like, holy shit. No, then you just keep this card in your hand and you don't play it. Because otherwise he doesn't fatigue. But oh my god, what the fuck. And such a weird design, this card. Really weird design. So this is like... I think this card is bad. Because it's... With Light Bomb you always have him clear. With Holy Nova it benefits you more. So you are looking for a way where the shuffle this card into your opponent's deck benefits you. But that will never happen. Because either it goes to the fatigue game and this card will not work because nobody's gonna play it, or it goes to the way that your opponent is gonna play it earlier to give it to you back. But why would he do that if he doesn't benefit from that? So that is not... It's not gonna work. This card is bad. It's not better than Holy Nova. It's not better than Light Bomb. So this card is not... it's a cool design, but the card is pretty bad. It doesn't work against aggro decks. It's worse than Holy Nova. It's 5 mana. You play a lot. Yeah, they draw this card. Woohoo, they have a bad draw. But This card's not good enough. This card cannot make it. I cannot see this card being... It's not better into an into board clearing. It's not better in the fatigue game. It's not really better when... Yeah, like it's a sad draw for your opponent. So you give like one out of the cards that your opponent has in your deck is a crap draw. That's what you do. I don't think that's good enough. I think this card's not gonna make it. Maybe in some way that I'm wrong with this, but this card's not gonna make it. Everything is awesome. Everything. Give your minions +2/+2. Gain cost 1 less for each Murloc you control. Murloc Shaman hype, guys. Murloc Shaman hype. Give your minions +2. I mean, +2/+2 is a lot. All your minions. So let's say you have 2 Murlocs on board. Then you... I mean, what will be average? You have 2 Murlocs on board. Maybe 3, and then you get like... that's already powerful. It costs 1 less for all the Murlocs you control. But you're not gonna play this in a not Murloc deck. So you can also play it in like... What if you play this in a heavy totem deck? But that's not gonna work, right? I think this deck is only gonna be okay for Murloc. And if you play this in a Murloc deck, you actually don't really want to play spells. But this spell is gonna be good for Murlocs because it costs less and you buff. But I don't know, man. Like, I'm still thinking of like the Murloc decks, and Murlocs might be getting super good. But like, consider the fact that Murlocs are not good enough now for in the meta. Murlocs are not good enough in general yet, and I agree that Murlocs in like I can see that Murlocs are gonna be good enough for like that Murloc Shaman is the powerful Murloc class. And there is like the 1 mana 1/3 that you can get in better hero power. So you can get away from your hero power. Like it's a really win more card also. Yeah, that's true. Like it's like you have already 3-4 Murlocs on the board, you win. And now oh sorry. And now you get this card. Nah, it's a win more card. Like if you have 3 or 4 Murlocs on the board, you win already. So then you don't need this card at all. Nah, this card is I mean the card might be okay. I can see that people want to play this in Murlocs, and it might be good enough, but it really feels like it's a win-win more card, and the cost is still super high, like 7 mana for a +2/+2. You need like an insane amount of Murlocs, and then it gets okay. Like if you get this on 2 Murlocs and you pay 5 mana for it, so you get like +4/+4 with charge normally. I mean, it's gonna be decent, but you need to be okay on board. Like, if you are behind on board, it does nothing. And that's the problem with Murlocs, right? They have to go fast. If they don't go fast, they lose. So I think it's not good enough for Murlocs, actually. Like, the dream is to, like, play all these 1 mana Murlocs, 2 mana 1/0 mana Murlocs. So, yeah, next card. 3 mana Warrior Taunt card, 3 mana 3/4. Warrior Arena hype. Good card for arena. Finally some Arena Warrior buffs, right? Warrior is like always is like by far the weakest class I think in Arena, and it's because they don't have good neutrals, and it's like a kind of decent one. And I mean 3 mana 3/4 Taunt. If there is any weak spot in Warrior, it's probably the 3-drop. So in that way, the monkey is gonna be okay. 3 mana 3/4 in Taunt. I mean in Warrior Taunt, 3 mana, 3/4 taunt is pretty okay. It might be better than Senjin actually, because it's... is it better than Senjin? Like maybe they're... Like, I know like from the last patch they really tried to make Taunt Warrior a thing, but that never really worked. Maybe there's like another way that Taunt Warrior might work now again. But 3 mana 3/4, like it's just 3 mana 3/4, but taunt. Like it's really good in an aggro meta. In an aggro meta, this card's gonna be good, right? In an aggro meta, this card is good for warrior. I mean, in a control meta, the card is probably a bit too weak. In a taunt warrior, I don't know if it's gonna make like the buff to taunt warrior that they need. But yeah, this monkey. Nah. I mean, it's an okay card. I think it's gonna be a bit too weak. I think it's gonna be still a bit too weak for to make it into the deck. But it's a really cool design. It's a really cool warrior card, and it's playable for sure. But probably too weak and constructed. Okay, here we go again. Oh, another discover card. This is gonna be hard to evaluate, guys. 5 mana, 6/3. It's a mage card, so you get a mage spell. And in general, mage spells are one of the most powerful spells. They are also going more one way. Where you have, like, if you compare it to Druid, you either get heal spells, you either get damage spells, you get buff spells, you get AoE spells. Like, it's really inconsistent. If you look at the mage spells, it's mostly damage. And if you don't get damage, it's removal normally. So, it's a bit more consistent in what you can get. 5 mana, 6/3. So, let's look at the stats. 5 mana, 6/3. When do you want to play in 6/3? If it is 4 mana, 6/3, it's still not good. Like 3 HP is just pretty easy to kill. If you compare it to general 5 drops, if you compare it to Azure Drake, 5 mana 4/4. Stats wise it should be kind of the same, right? Where an Azure Drake draws a card, this card is discover a spell. So I think for mage, this card is almost as good as, or it's like really close between this card and Azure Drake. And this card you can just play at turn 5. I mean, it's not like the Deathrattle card or like the cards that you have to put your hero power. Like, it's better than the Inspire cards in Mage. Like, it's better than the Sarat for sure. But with the Azure Drake you draw a card. So with Azure Drake you draw a card, and like, and drawing a card has to be more powerful. Like, again, the same. I still come back to the same point. Like, this card is going to be good in Tempo Mage. And if you are in Tempo Mage, you want to draw the card. I don't think that the discover... Like, you can also get, like, Mirror Image, Icelands, and Polymorph. Or, like, the Flame Lands. Or, like, you can get, like, pretty crap spells, too. And then you are super sad. And where with the Azure Drake, you just draw a spell. So this card can never be as good as Azure Drake. Like, it's already weaker than Azure Drake. Yeah, I think this card is not good. It's not bad, but it's not good enough. The card is... The stats are just too much. It's worse than an Azure Drake. But it's pretty much... It's like at least 1 mana worse than an Azure Drake. And 1 mana is a lot. So, yeah, I think this card is too weak. Yeah, this card is too weak, I think. It's a cool card, but it's gonna be too weak for constructed, I guess. Yeah, let's move to the next card. I mean, it might be okay for arena. It might be okay for arena where you play it and then the discover might be good. So for arena, it's still a card you can consider. Otherwise, I think it's too weak. Okay, Explorer's Head, 2 mana hunter card. Give a minion +1/+1 and Deathrattle, add an Explorer's Head to your hand. So it's like a fatigue card. And in some way, I love all these fatigue cards. But guys, we are dreaming. It will never go to a fatigue meta. There will always be these stupid face hunters, these secret paladins, the more mid-range decks that are still pushing you not into a fatigue battle. It's just like it's not gonna happen. I like how I love all the designs of the fatigue cards. How I love all these designs that go into a long game. It's like it's not the meta in constructed at the moment. And especially in Hunter, like, how can Hunter ever go to fatigue? I mean, it's like the worst class to do it. Like, look at the hero power and reconsider it. It's like you get it in your hand. Like I'm thinking how you can make this card work, but giving a minion +1/+1, and oh, we get it in our hand again. Oh, we can play it again. So at 4 mana you can play this oh, it's a Deathrattle, wait. So you give +1/+1, you trade, and then you can play it again next turn or the same turn. Ah, this card's so bad. Holy shit. Holy shit. Maybe an arena. Like this is for example a really good arena card, right? You play it on a minion, you trade. Oh, we played on another minion, we trade again. Oh, we play it again, we play it again. In arena it's gonna be okay. In constructed, holy shit, this card is bad. Like paying 2 mana for +1/+1 is pretty bad. Yeah, this card's bad. Elise Starseeker. Oh, and this is like the word card, right? Where you get like the monkey. Shuffle the map to the golden monkey into your deck. Okay. So I first have to clarify a bit about this card before we really gonna analyze it. It is the card 4 mana 3/5, and if we get this card, we put the golden monkey. The golden monkey is a 4 mana 6/6, I think. And when that card is being played, you get all legendaries in your deck. All your cards are legendaries in your deck after the golden monkey is gonna be played. And that is actually... And... okay, let's first look at the card. 4 mana 3/5, okay, it's okay. The stats of this card... yeah, oh yeah, all the cards in your hand, all the cards in your decks are gonna be legendaries. And I was thinking of it. And all your cards becoming legendary. How good is that? How good really is that? Like, there are really good legendaries, but there are also really crappy legendaries. So, so we first look at this card. 4 mana 3/5, it's pretty okay. And then we get the golden monkey in our deck. Golden monkey 4 mana 6/6. 4 mana 6/6. Super good. It's super good, man. And then we get all the legendaries in our hand. Or then we get like legendaries in our hand, legendaries in our deck. So our deck will be like 50% of being super good cards, 50% of super bad cards. But it's so bad, right? Like, I don't know what is gonna happen with your deck, with your hand. It's slow. Oh, map first. Oh, wait, there is another card that has to be played first before the golden monkey. Yeah, then it's super bad, I think. I thought already this card was already bad. And now you have to play the map to the golden monkey first. Then you play the golden monkey. Then you get random legendaries. Wow, that's so much, man. I mean, in the dream of our Hearthstone players, in the dream of the constructed play, where there are only control matchups, where there are only control decks, where there is no aggro decks, where there are no mid-range decks, this card is gonna be okay, because it goes to really late. But... nah, Nah, this card is bad, man. This card is so bad. It's it's so bad. I don't know. Maybe in the dream world, then it's bad. Sorry, guys. I have to disappoint you. I think this card... Maybe others say this card is good, but... I think it's way too much that you have to put into this, and the effect is... The effect is cool. It's gonna be fun. It's not gonna be bad, but you just have to do too much for it. Okay, and this is a pretty funny design. 5 mana 4/6. So if you look at 5 mana 4/6, it's already okay. It's not like the 5 slot is still pretty open. The 5 slots, the 5 mana cards that are being played are mostly Azure Drake. Like for Druid, you have, for example, the Druid of the Claw, and if you put that in Taunt, it's a 5 mana 4/6. So it's okay. 5 slot is like an open slot. If you are looking for the weak mana slot that we have currently in Hearthstone, there is still the open 5 slot where you see a lot of different cards being played or people skipping the 5 slot. So if there has to be like a powerful card, it can be at the 5 slot. So let's read the card. Whenever you cast a spell on another friendly minion, so not on this card, you have to play it on another minion. So that requires already 2 minions on board. Cast a copy of it on this one. So you want to have another minion and cheap spells for this to make this card being better. If you play this in Priest, and you play like a Powerful Shield on another minion, and then this will be in 4/8. You have in Druid, you have like Mark of the Wild or Power of the Wild. Then you get like also buffs on this one. I mean, you play this in a buff heavy deck. But it's like 5 mana 4/6. So you have to have a minion on board. You play this and you still need mana left to play a buff on another minion. I mean, it requires a lot of mana and a lot of perfect situations. It feels... it's not a bad card. But you need to have like a lot of it to make it work. If it works, it's good. If it doesn't work, it's meh to okay. It's like meh. Because 5 mana 4/6, I mean, it's not super bad. 5 mana 4/6. But it's really hard to make this card work. It requires another minion. It requires a buff on another minion. And then it is good. So... it's gonna be good for Arena because of the stats that are already good, and you normally get buff cards. I don't think this is gonna be good enough for Constructed. You have to make your deck a bit around it. Like in a buff Druid deck, in a buff Priest deck, it's not gonna be good enough. If you cast a spell. Like, it's still 5 mana 4/6. You cannot get really bad for the... You cannot go wrong with this card, so... Even if you, like, you don't have to change your deck insanely much. If you just, like, have, like, then it's still a 5 mana 4/6, so you don't have to, like, you can play this in Priest, I think, maybe. You have, like, you just play it, and if they kill it, whatever. But it's 5 mana 4/6, so you play it as a 5-drop, and you play like Powerful Shield on another minion, you play Velen on another minion, you just play like these cards on another minion, and then this card's meanwhile gets insane. So I think it's a card you can consider for Priest actually. In a current Priest decks. Maybe there is like a way where you can make a buff Druid valuable, but I think this card is okay in all the decks because it's like just 5 mana 4/6, but it might be good for Priest. Desert Camel. 3 mana 2/4. So the average 3 mana card is 3/4. Or the good 3 mana cards, it's like 3/4. So we have like 1 less attack. What do we get from the Battlecry? Put a 1 cost minion from each deck into the battlefield. Okay, that's so what you want with this deck, of course, you need to have like 1-drops in the deck. Otherwise you never play this card. What 1-drops do you want to play in Hunter? I mean, this is not a card really designed. Is it a card designed for aggro Druid? Desert Camel. if you play this in aggro hunter, you play this and you have a leper gnome on your board, or an abusive. If you play this in control hunter, you get a web spinner. I mean, this card should be better in for a control hunter, right? Because if you play this in a control hunter, you have 2 beasts on the board. Like, there are so many new beasts out now. Like, I think that maybe a beast hunter might get like a bit better in some way. So you get like, in a hunter it might be, like, it is a hunter card, so you play this on turn 3 and you play it with Home Master. Like, you play this, you get another beast, you coin Wrangler. I mean, it's kind of because and your opponent might not play a 1-drop, right? Are there many decks that play 1-drops? Druid doesn't really play 1-drops, or not 1-cost minions. They play maybe the saplings, but that's a spell. You have Paladin that plays 1-drops, Secret Keeper, maybe Squire sometimes, maybe Abusive. But it's really, I think this card is not good for aggro hunter because it doesn't fit the strategy. It's a 3 mana card without charges, not really damage, so but not that bad maybe. But for a mid-range hunter deck and control hunter deck, like just having a 3 mana 2/4, it's like kind of an, if you compare it with Animal Companion, you get in a mid-range hunter deck, like it's like a Layok, but you get another 1-drop. I think for a mid-range hunter it might be decent. It might be. It's really hard to say. Like, if your opponent doesn't play a 1-drop, then this card is already good enough, I think. Because you get like average 3 mana 3/5, and your opponent gets nothing. But I don't know how many decks are playing 1-drops nowadays. Like, you have the Zoo that plays it, but Handlock doesn't play it. Paladin doesn't play much 1-drops actually. They have a lot of 1 mana spells, but they don't play much 1-drops. It's okay, man. It's really okay. If you compare it to Imp Gang Boss, that isn't 3 mana 2/4, you get already a 1/1 out of it. But Imp Gang Boss is considered being super good actually in Zoo, so yeah, it's gonna be an okay card, man. It's gonna be an okay card. I don't know if I don't think this card's gonna make it in any aggro deck of Hunter, but in a mid-range control Hunter, there might be some ways that this card's be good enough. It's hard to say for me yet. But if your opponent doesn't play a 1-cost minion, and there are not that many decks that play 1-cost minion. Warrior doesn't do it. Druid doesn't do it. Paladin doesn't really do it. Some Paladins does, so like it's really tricky against decks that play Zombie Chow. Freeze Mage doesn't do it. Rogue doesn't really do it. Maybe one deckhand. So there are not that many decks that play 1-cost minions. So I think this card is pretty okay actually. And this card, guys, Uri's Statute. Can't attack unless it's the only minion in the battlefield. And I thought a bit of this card, but this is my MVP pick, guys. This is my MVP pick. I heard a lot of guys say this this card is like, man, not that good. But think more about this card. If you can play a 4 mana 7/7, and even if you have minions on board, like, your opponent wants to kill your minions, right? That's like the game how Hearthstone works. You wanna, like, a lot of decks are made around trading efficient on board, clearing board. And this card forces you to not clear your other minions, kind of. But they still wanna clear your other minions. You can suicide your other minions and you can attack with this card. I mean, this card is so good. 4 mana 7/7, like, holy shit. This card is gonna be so good. Like, I heard a lot of people say this card might be good for Handlock. I think it's like not good for Handlock. I think this card is gonna be super good for Druid. Like, play this card at turn 4, and like normally it doesn't matter if you have minions on board or not. Like you just can like innervate this out on turn 2 and bomb, smash that face for 7. You can attack first for 7, then you play your second minion. You have already a minion on board. You trade your minion in, and you can attack with this deck, this card. Like this card is so good. Like I cannot think of. Every time I think of this card more, this card is so good. This card is gonna be so good, guys. Oh, your opponent minions matter as well. Oh wait. Oh wait, your opponent matter. Your opponent's minions matter as well. Oh, I didn't read that. So if your opponent minions matter as well, so then you have to trade yourself too. Oh, then so you clear. I still think it's okay. It's not. Then it's not insanely good, but it's still okay, right? I mean, you play it in mid-range druid, man. I will play it in mid-range druid, I think. Play it in mid-range druid. Like mid-range druid, 1 fights for the board, and 2 your opponent wants to clear. You wanna clear. You can silence it with Keeper. Like coin this out at turn 3, silence it with Keeper. Like holy shit, this card is good, man. I think this card is good. In mid-range druid, man. I played in mid-range druid. Play it at turn 3, silence it at turn 4. Or like you either clear his board, he clears your board, you trade with your other minions. I mean, coin it out, clear his minion, you attack for 7, play another minion. Like this card is gonna be so annoying, guys. This card's gonna be so annoying because 1, it forces your opponent to not trade into a mid-range druid. And they will always be scared later in the game of combo. You can silence it, this card is gonna be insane. There's of course the way of BGH, but that's the only tricky thing. And in Handlock, I mean in Handlock you can just taunt it up. 4 mana 7/7, just taunt it up. It's like an Ancient Watcher kind of. I think this card's gonna be good. I think this card's gonna be good. I think this card is gonna be good in mid-range druid, and it's still hard to say. Like, but it forces your opponent to not trade. So in the mid-range matchups and the control matchups, this card is gonna be good. Against aggro, it's still. I mean, maybe it's gonna be like the all silence deck. Like, it's gonna be an insane buff to silence for the silence druid deck that plays like the Watchers, and you play like the 4 mana silence card. Silence all minions. I think this card is gonna be good. It's not gonna be broken, but this card is playable for sure. You have to make your deck a bit around it, but this card is gonna be good. And Tom, choose an enemy minion, shuffle it into your deck. And this is a really good card also. Like compare it to Recycle. Like compare this card to Recycle. You do exactly the same. You choose a minion and you remove it in your deck. But instead of removing it back into your opponent's deck, you put it into your deck. Compare it to Scything Soul, what is already sometimes being played. 6 mana, choose a minion, and instead of getting 3 health and let it die, it goes into your deck. And what is also in consideration, there are a lot of Deathrattle minions that sometimes you wanna, like in Sylvanas. And what you can do is, you can just choose Sylvanas, it goes out of the... How does that work? If you do it on Sylvanas, then the Deathrattle doesn't trigger, right? Or does it? Because you don't kill it. It just goes out of the board and yeah, it goes into your deck. So you can play this on Sylvanas, the Deathrattle doesn't trigger, and on Sylvanas goes into your deck. I mean, I don't know if you can play it because it's still expensive. But you can just like, how can a priest deal with that was always an issue for priests to deal with silence cards. A priest cannot deal with can't really deal well with Sylvanas. It cannot really deal well with Tyrion. It had some issues with dealing with Ysera. And now you can just get them yourselves. Hup, go away. Get it in my deck. I mean, this card is so... Oh, wow. I think this card's gonna be good, man. This card might make it. I think this card's gonna be good enough to being played. It's... I mean, at the worst thing, it's a 6 mana removal that is passing the turn. But at the best case in the control matchups, this card is so good. If the meta goes a bit more control, you will see this card being played in every piece deck. I don't know if you probably don't play 2 of them because it's so expensive. But it's like better than a Scything Soul. It's better than some removal. It might be too slow, and that's the thing. It's gonna be too slow on ladder now, maybe. But it's a card you always can consider for tournaments. It's a card you can consider in a control meta. So, yeah, I think this card might be, this card is playable. Yeah, it's like a bit, the ladder is probably a bit too fast for it still, but you will see this card being played. I think. In some control matchups, it's good. So, and here we have it, the Brand Bronzebird. 3 mana, 2/4, your Battlecries triggered twice. And I heard already some opinions about this card. I don't know, I'm not really sure about this card yet. Like, some people say this card is like super good, but it's not gonna be, it's gonna be probably good, but I mean 3 mana 2/4, so you have like, if you just look at the stats, it's you pay 1 mana, or you pay for an average 3 mana card, you want to play 3/4, 3 attack to 4 health. You have like this card has a less attack. Like, and what are the good Battlecries that you want to play? So like you have like these aggro abusive, like you can play like an abusive Surgeon and you meme up buff for 4. You have like the heal bot and you heal for 16. I mean, it's like, I don't think this card's gonna be super good at all. Like, I heard a lot of people calling this one of the better cards, but I don't think this card's gonna be super good. It's a bit too overrated card. Like, the dream is to play this and play in Twilight Drake after it, and your Twilight Drake meanwhile get double the health. But that is when your opponent doesn't kill this card, and your opponent will most likely kill this card. Like, there is no way that people gonna leave this card up when you play Twilight Drake, Azure Drake in your deck. Like, that is where the card is the best. In a deck with Twilight Drake and Twilight, or with the Azure Drake. Like, that is where the card is gonna be the best. But I don't think there are many situations where people gonna leave this card up. And is 4 HP that hard to kill? I mean, people should be able at turn 3 to kill this card, right? So, yeah, it's gonna be a threat. People kill this card. I mean, it's an okay card. You can play this as a 3-drop probably in some decks. Maybe it's like a deck and not good enough in handlock. It might be a card that is decent in. It might be a card where you can just play in some decks. I mean, how bad can you go with a 3 mana 2/4? Like, if the benefit is so high, you can risk like this cost where the minion stats are not that powerful. But people, you have to remember that people, if they do, like, if people don't kill this card, like, I'm just thinking, how big of a threat is it, and how hard is it going to kill? Like, if people don't kill this card, it's insane. If people don't kill this card, it's insane. But it's not that hard to kill. But it's still a threat. I mean, 4 HP, it's kind of annoying. I mean, this card might be good, and it might work, it might be good. But if you play this card on turn 3, like, you don't want to play in Healbot for healing 16. It doesn't matter at turn 4 or turn 5. It's like a later game card. But if you can play this card and you play in Twilight Drake after it, like, that's insane. So yeah, I think it's gonna be decent. It's gonna be decent. The card is overrated, but it's an okay card. It's like the stats wise, it's a bit of a it's not good, but the benefit is pretty high. So you can consider playing this card. Okay, Warlock card, Dark Peddler, 2 mana 2/2. So what do we want to play for 2 mana? 3/2, and 3/2 is already not that powerful for a 2 mana card. The only 3/2s that are being played are the cards with good effects, so like a Knife Juggler. So, and you have Mad Scientist. And with this card, 2 mana 2/2, discover a 1 cost card. So what you get is, we play 2 mana 2/2 and we get a 1 cost minion. A 1 cost card, not a minion, a 1 cost card of the Warlock. Like you can get a Flame Imp, you can get a Void Walker. But you can also get like the crappy neutral 1/1s. You can get Soulfire, what is of course bad. But you can choose. I mean, out of 3 cards you should always get a good one, right? So, so you have like a 2/2 with a card draw. If you compare it to the other ones, that is like 2 mana 1/2 with a card draw, this one shot might be a bit better, but you only get a 1 drop. I mean, in Zoo it should be good, right? I mean, how likely is it to not get a Void Walker and Flame Imp? And still some neutral 1/1s are decent enough. And Power Overwhelming is fine. I mean, this card is okay. It's not gonna be a miracle. It's not gonna be like insane or something, but the card is okay. I mean, 2 mana, or 2 mana 2/2 with a card draw, with a 1 cost. Like this is okay in Zoo, where you want to have like all these cheap minions anyways. You can also get like an Abusive Sergeant that they play already. You can get a Power Overwhelming. You get a Flame Imp, Void Walker. There are just a lot of good 1/1s, 1 mana cards in the Warlock deck. So I think this card is okay. I think you can play this in Zoo. I'm not sure if it is too slow against Zoo because you want to play these powerful creeps, but I think it's cool. I think this card is okay in Zoo. It's not gonna be insane in Zoo because it's like kind of a slow effect, but it's okay. Yeah, this card, it's a warrior card, right? But Curse Blade, 1 mana 2/3. Just don't read the card yet. And 1 mana 2/3 is pretty powerful as a weapon, okay. But then we read the effect. Double all damage dealt to your hero. Like, what the fuck? How suicidal can a card be? How suicidal can a card be, guys? So what we are gonna do is we play this card. And we get like 8 damage by a Leper Gnome after killing it. Because the Leper Gnome deals 2. We get 2 damage from this weapon. And they get 4 damage from the Deathrattle. We deal with a Knife Juggler. We meanwhile get 6 damage from a Knife Juggler. Because we deal double damage. He is gonna deal 3 damage. We get 6 damage. Like, holy shit. How suicidal can a card be? How suicidal can this card be, man? This is like... Yeah, the card is like... so bad. This card is so crap. Holy shit. I don't know. Like, this card is like the Blinktron. This is like an insane buff to Blinktron. Like when you are so desperate, you have to play Blinktron, and then your opponent gets this weapon, and meanwhile you just kill him. I mean, this Blinktron, holy shit. I don't know. We're gonna have like really fun things gonna happen out of this card, guys. But yeah, if you look at it like you're never gonna play this card, but with Blinktron, holy shit. Such a suicidal card, man. Yeah, let's move on. I mean, the card is cool, but it's not a good card. It's not a good card. So we have the Curse of Ravon. Give your opponent a curse card. Whenever they hold it, they take 2 damage on their turn. So what we're gonna do is we pay 2 mana and we give him a card. So are we playing a friendly game here and hoping that like the design is really weird because we pay 2 mana to give our opponent a card, but I mean the card is not a benefit for our opponent, it hurts our opponent. So yeah, that makes some sense. But it's a really weird design if you think of it. Give your opponent a cursed card. While they hold it, they take 2 damage on their turn. And the cursed card is like a 2 mana card. But I mean, in the early game, this doesn't matter. Your opponent can just play with it. They don't care if they take 4 damage for in 2 turns. So, but if they care, they just play it on. They just play it again, and they don't take any damage. So they just play their curse card, and it's away. It's like a really weird design. I don't know how I can really evaluate this card, but like it's like it's like a mill card, and I don't know how you can do it with this card, but I think the card is super bad. The card has to be super bad. Like there are some like this is a card you're gonna make your deck around, and if there is like maybe there is some way where you can make your deck around this card, but the card is so bad. The card is super bad. Yeah, the card is bad. I cannot see this card working in any way. Dart Trap. 2 mana secret from the hunter class. So another hunter secret. That is the 5th or 6th hunter secret. Whenever an opposing hero power is used, so whenever a hero power is used, deal 5 damage to a random enemy. So I guess that's kinda good for face hunter, right? 5 damage to the face. But yeah, a random enemy. So it either clears a minion. If it goes in a Deathrattle minion, it's of course super bad. But if it goes to face, it's 5 damage to face. I don't know. It cannot be good and. Yeah, it cannot be that good, right? I mean, you can play it, and it's like kind of a misdirection way that is more consistent. Like, I think it's better than misdirection in a face hunter deck. But if it just kills like a minion that is played at turn 1 or turn 2, it's okay, but it's not super good. I don't think this card is gonna be super good. It is better than Misdirection, but I don't think it gets a place in a face hunter deck. Why would you play an inconsistent dealing 5 damage card than just playing on bow or a quick shot or a minion with charge? I mean, it's gonna be okay, but it's not gonna be good enough to being played. Yeah, let's just move on. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. 10 mana spell. Like, first think of 10 mana spell. And 10 mana spells are super crap. I mean, you don't want to play a full turn for a 7 mana spell. But let's see. Summon 7 Murlocs that died this turn, so it's like a Murloc Paladin card. I don't know about this card, man. It cannot be good. With Murlocs you go YOLO. You don't want to play a 10 mana spell that you can draw in the early game. Like, of course it's an insane top deck later in the game. But you have to, like, of course, we're not gonna consider this card in a Paladin deck. We consider it only in a Murloc deck. And then, okay, this card might work at turn 10, but are you gonna get to turn 10? Like, turn 10 is so far away. I mean, they have to die, like, so it's only gonna work in a... Summon 7 Murlocs that died this turn. Nah, this card cannot work. I mean, I don't see Paladin Murloc gonna work, so... Maybe this card will work in another class, but for Paladin, not. I mean, Murlocs are just not good enough, guys. I hope that Murlocs can get the buff that they need from this expansion, but from this, it's not really gonna be good at all. Nah, it's not gonna be good enough, I think. Cannot be. Anything can happen, so maybe I'm wrong, guys. Anything can happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think this card's gonna be good enough. Ancient Shade. So 4 mana 7/4. That's pretty good. So if we don't read the Battlecry yet, I would say this card is really good. But let's see what the Battlecry says. Shovel an Ancient Curse into your deck that deals 7 damage to you when drawn. I mean, 7 damage. It's another suicidal card. 4 mana, deals 7 damage to you when you draw it. I mean, 4 drop, like 7/4. I mean, it's good, but it's so easy to kill. And then you deal even 7 damage to yourself. 4 health. Like like this card just almost says 4 mana 7/4 and you deal 7 damage to yourself. Like, holy shit, it's way worse than Pit Lord or something. But you have to draw it, so you might not draw it in time. Card cannot be good, right? Card cannot be good. Card is so bad. Card is horrible. I mean, it doesn't, like... Your opponent plays Shredder, and meanwhile you're thinking, oh, should I play this card into Shredder? It's so bad. I mean, why would you play this card? It's so bad as a 4-drop. Like, if there was not a Deathrattle minion, Deathrattle meta, this card will be maybe okay because you can trade. But getting 7 damage is a lot. It's a lot, getting 7 damage. And like, maybe in some aggro YOLO decks you don't care about getting damage. Like, play it in Face Hunter, just drop it and hopefully they don't kill it and then you deal 7 damage, but nah. Yeah, play it with Fel Reaver, then it might work. I mean, then you discard it. Holy shit. Play it and you coin out and you play Fel Reaver and then you discard it. Like, then, like, it might be okay in some decks. In general, the card is bad, but in some YOLO decks, it might be decent enough. Can't see that actually. Nine mana, discover a powerful artifact, and there are before I can analyze this, there are 3 artifacts. I think I can even show them. Where are they? Because oh, they are not here, the artifacts. Never mind then. Well, then I'm just gonna say it to myself. There are 3 artifacts, and there are the 3 artifacts are all 10 mana. There are 3 different artifacts. One is like give a minion +10/+10. Another one is 10 mana. Get like 3/3 zombies over all the board, so your board is filled with all zombies. And there was another one that I forget already. But the problem is it's like a 10 mana spell, so it's super expensive. The good thing is there are only 3, and you can choose your own. Like, you can just choose the zombie one, and you play this at turn 9, and next turn your board is you play 10 mana to get your board filled with zombies that are all 3/3. So so yeah, I can see this card. And there was the last one was like deal 10 split damage, but that one is super bad. So I think the one with the zombies is like pretty good. And yeah, I mean, it's not a bad card. I mean, it's 9 mana 7/8, but it gives you a really good turn template too. So it is okay. The Battlecry is actually super powerful. The problem is like this card is really cost heavy. Like you have to you have to pay 10 mana for this. Like you play 9 mana and your 10 mana turn is, so it's only good in control matchups. And you have to be okay on board to play this card at turn 9. And then, yeah, there's always the BGH. Like, there might be a big comeback of BGHs in the new meta, because there are some cards that you really want to BGH. I think it's just too slow. Like, when I evaluate these cards, like, value-wise, I always get, like, decent results. Like, this card, value-wise, is pretty okay. But if you look at it, it's just super slow. You pay 19 mana for the combo, kind of. So, I don't think it's powerful enough. Like, if you compare it to Ysera, 9 mana, 4/12. Stats-wise, it's kind of the same. Maybe a bit better because you just cannot BGH it. But, and then you have, like, you get, like, two cards. I think Ysera is just better. So, yeah. Okay, Anubisat Sentinel, 5 mana, 4/4. So if we just look at the stats of this card, 5 mana, 4/4, it's meh. But you give a random friendly minion +3/+3. But it's a Deathrattle, guys. It's a Deathrattle. And Deathrattles are not really good this way. Like, if you look at Deathrattle, I mean, your opponent just clears your other minions, and this card doesn't do anything. Or they deal with it, and then you get like the Deathrattle, but they can kind of choose on which minion it comes. It's not good. It's not gonna be good. It's way worse than an average 5-drop. It's not as good as an like if it was in Battlecry, the card will be super good, but it's an Deathrattle, and that makes it super bad actually. People can play around this card, and it's not on himself. It gives a friendly minion, but people just gonna clear other minions. Like, what you wanna do with this card? You play this card. You hope it doesn't die, but it's not likely. Like 5 mana, 4 health. Like holy shit, it dies. This card dies immediately, and then it doesn't do anything. So it's not gonna work. This card. It's just too hard to make this card working, and that's why it's not gonna work. Animated Armor. 4 mana card, 4/4 stats. Your hero can only take 1 damage at a time. So 4 mana, 4/4 is pretty bad. It's not because like 4 mana 5/4 is not being played, 4 mana 4/5 is not being played, and the 4-drop that's being played mostly is Shredder, and that trade's super good. So stats wise, this card's pretty bad. Like for 3 mana, I don't even know if you will play 4/4 for 3 mana, but that's something different. And now the thing, your hero can only take 1 damage at a time. Like, what the fuck? I don't care. Like, they just trade with this card and then they can deal full damage again. Even against aggro, this card is not good, because they still can deal really easily. They still deal the 1 damage. This card is really bad, or this card's not good enough. There are better anti-aggro cards, there are better mid-range cards, there are better 4-drops. Like, the card is like in the middle of everything, or not, but it's like, it doesn't shine in any way. It's just not good. There's no way that this card can work. Like, you have to play this later in the game and then defend it to make it good against aggro. But that, you don't want to deal with it. Just play a heal card and it's good. That's good against aggro. So it's not gonna be good enough against aggro, and then this card just sucks. Yeah, like it's an anti-combo card somehow. I can see that, but it just dies too easily. Like 4 health, it dies easily. So it's a bad card. It's some bad cards. Unfortunately, guys, it's a bad card. Yeah, let's move to the... I think this was the end of the review, actually, but let's see if there's another one. that was it. That were all the cards, I think. Let me see if I really got everything.